Hey, Dad, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room. We had some technical difficulties. Yo, yo, I screwed that one up. I'm sorry. We need to get these.
What's going on? Why is it just you and me? Where'd everyone else?
And we're back.
I am terribly sorry, guys. It happens. It happens, but we handled it smoothly. I messaged the waiting room that we will be back. We'll be there with them in a few minutes. Let me just make sure everyone has the proper permissions. But we have people in the waiting room, and we're ready to start the event. Andrew's here. Let me make Barry. Just please double check that everyone is properly a co-host in the meeting, so so we can get started. And let's see. I think we're good to go. Sweet. So I'm going to let everyone in. We have about 21 people in the waiting room. We're just waiting for Alan here, but we'll let him in when he comes. Let's get started. So let's admit all. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New York Augmented Reality Meetup. Super excited to have you here. And we'll get started in just a few minutes, just setting up some of the final logistics, but really happy you're here. We have a great show tonight, so get ready. Oliver, good to see you here. Patrick, happy you're here. Jason, nice to see you as well. Happy to see so many familiar faces. Beatrice, nice to see you. Thank you for coming again. Feel free to write in the chat if you'd like to say hi or just share any AR news. We'd be more than happy to have you. Paladin, glad you're here. April, happy to see you. Declan Johnson, what's going on, man? How are you? Just feel free to message anyone in the chat. Say hi. Hoping to make it a more of a community event. And we'll get started in just a minute. Beautiful. So pretty cool to have Patrick here, and your last name is a bit difficult to pronounce. O'Shaughnessy. I might have gotten that wrong. But as some of you may recall, Patrick is the founder of Patch Reality Labs, and they created Epic Marble Run. And we've gone over that a few times in this meetup. One of the coolest use cases of LiDAR, and I have a top 10, and I pronounced his name right. And I have a top 10 score in his game, or I did when I played it. So really cool. And my name's Andy Agus. I am hosting tonight's meetup along with Barry Seff. If you'd like to say what up, Barry.
What up, Barry? And everybody else.
And there you go. So our group's continuously growing really nicely. And I would say it's the trend is replicating the adoption trend of the Quest 2. So if we looked at a comparison chart, which I don't have, we'll see those charts looking pretty similar. So if you want to trade the Quest 2, you could also trade this meetup. It's super exciting. And 450 members, that's really great. And we continuously grow. So if you ever want to be part of this event, feel free to just send me or Barry a message. We'll be happy to see how you can be involved. And if you ever want to speak, reach out as well. And we're just overall really excited to have you here for the meetup. Thank you for being here. So tonight's agenda, we're going to start out by Mark Pesce. He's going to be introducing his book. Augmented reality unboxing, tech's next big thing. And in a previous meetup, I have spoken about the book. So exciting to have Mark here in person. He's actually in Australia in the morning. So if you'd like to send him a good morning message, that could make his day. Then I'll briefly go over some of the latest news and the industry trends. After that, I'll have a fireside chat, a nice old fireside chat with the master of WebXR. We have two masters. We're three masters of WebXR. Ben Erwin, one of the masters of WebXR that we have here. So that's exciting. And then we'll go into presentations. We have Andrew Shih from Compound Photonics, then Alan Smithson from MetaVRse, and Kevin Yu from WearWorks. So really excited for all these presentations. And without further ado, we have Mark Pesce here. He's an engineer and futurist who's been working in the AR field for over 30 years. In 1994, along with Tony Parisi, he was instrumental in bringing VR to the web by creating the virtual reality modeling language commonly known as VRML. He also hosts the award-winning podcast Next Billion Seconds, which will be linked in the Zoom chat, and is an acclaimed author with over 6 books on human-computer interactions. And I'm honored to have Mark here to share more information on his latest novel, Augmented Reality, Unboxing Tech's Next Big Thing, an amazing account of the history, potential, and concerns of AR and the impact invisible computing will have on our environments that we interact with and how it will in turn change how we view humanity as a whole. Mark, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Good morning, Andy, and good morning, everyone else. Yes, I'm here from Sydney. If you've been watching the news at all, you know we've been getting a lot of rain and there's a lot of flooding going on. So just to give you a little bit of background, it is morning here. It's tomorrow here. It's Tuesday morning here. And one of the benefits of being in Australia is we get technology released here just a little bit earlier than everyone else. That happened in 2016 when Niantic decided to drop Pokemon Go on Australia about 48 hours before the rest of the world. And I remember that weekend because you could see little groups of folks running everywhere around the trains, around the Opera House, just enjoying themselves catching Pokemon. Now, there's a little suburb called Rhodes. It's about 10 Ks from where I am. So just an outer suburb of Sydney. There's a little park there called the Peg Patterson Park. And it turns out that Niantic had put a Pokestop in Peg Patterson Park, and some people came by and found that there was a Pokestop there. And they played with the Pokestop, and then they messaged some friends that it was there, and those friends came, and those friends dropped a lair, which attracted more Pokemon, and those friends messaged more friends. And very quickly, something that was very innocent snowballed into something that on a weeknight, this was a Tuesday night, 1,000 young people were in this park at 11 o'clock at night playing Pokemon Go, causing lots of traffic, making lots of noise. This is a suburban park that's surrounded by apartment towers. And the folks on the apartment towers actually started dropping water balloons on the folks below to get them to quiet down. And eventually the police had to come and basically just clear everyone away. It wasn't really a riot. It was just this cascading selection of effects. And the thing that we can take away from this is that the first wide-scale released version of augmented reality in the world, which Pokemon Go effectively is, just in the very first implementation of it, in its very first days, it showed us something very important. It showed us that when we change space, because augmented reality is the ability to write locative data into space, add metadata to space, and then build systems that retrieve that metadata. That as soon as you do that, you change the way we behave in space. That changing space changes us. That's the opening of my book. What I build upon that is a look at what happens as we get to scale in augmented reality systems, because the technology of augmented reality is coming along. It's very hard. It's still taking its time. It's still a few years away from deployment. But before we get to that level of deployment, we have to have a think about how we want augmented reality to shape us and shape our space and shape our world. So that's what I hope you want to see in the book.
Thank you, Mark. Super exciting that you're here, and it's been a really amazing read. So I'll put some of the details in the chat. If you'd like to have a look at the book, feel free to order it and check it out yourself. Or if you'd like to see his podcast, you can have a look at Next Billion Seconds on your preferred podcast app. So thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Cool. That was exciting. Sweet. So, some of the latest news. So last week, Facebook released a demonstration and research video of a brain-controlled wristband used to enable AR experiences. And this directly aligns with their acquisition of Control Labs in 2019. And if you watch the whole video, you could see the wristband's ability to bridge users' thoughts with contextual information so that the UX will personally respond to a user's environment. So for example, the wristband gives the user the ability to recognize if they're going to work out, and it could suggest certain music or playlist to listen to. And another example would be a keyboard interface that can adjust based on the user's common typing patterns. So also, thanks to a phenomenon called sensory substitution, the sensations you feel while moving your wrist can be on the entire hand, giving the user's hands and their fingertips full control of the mixed reality experiences. So definitely take a look at Facebook's wrist-based interaction video. Next, in the beginning of the month, Microsoft released Mesh, which is a framework enabling developers to design immersive mixed reality apps without having to worry about some of the complex technical problems. This allowed easy integration of multi-user holographic rendering into your environment, and this is mostly geared for, as of now, workforce collaboration. Mesh also allows multi-device collaboration, so a project that you're working on through the HoloLens can also be accessed in VR and in mobile as well. And although Mesh is currently just a framework for developers to expand upon, they right now have 2 apps developed on the framework. Both the HoloLens 2 Mesh app and AltSpace VR apps are apps you can download if you want to experience Mesh for yourself. And then, as I'm sure you've seen, a number of artists have been auctioning off their artwork on the blockchain, leveraging it as a digital certification platform for one-of-a-kind artworks that are impossibly replicated. Augmented reality gives blockchain art a physical counterpart, making it more accessible and tangible than a JPEG or 3D model. The most notable NFT transaction this month was from artist Krista Kim, who sold the first digital house, which you can see on the video, in the world on the art platform Super Rare. So this is a rendering of a 3D model digital house. The forward-thinking artist, who has been on the project since 2020, also stated that soon we won't just be owning these 3D models, soon we'll actually be living in augmented reality in these 3D models within our real environments. So using apps such as Superworld, and I hope to have developers from Superworld at a future meetup, we can apply 3D imagery to our own environment and then even enjoy it with others. And with that, we have a great show tonight, and I'm excited that you're here. Now we have a fireside chat with the one and only Erwin, based in New York City. And let me try to lower that. Based in New York City, Erwin has been involved in web and spatial computing since the 90s. He has over 20 years experience as a full stack developer and has worked with clients such as New York Times, Activision, and he was the first engineer to deliver a 6-language WordPress site to the United Nations. Ben is also the founder of the Poly Awards, an online award show in mixed reality to award the best and most progressive projects in the space. The inaugural event was held on February 20th, 2020, and Ben, I'm really excited to have you on tonight. Just to get started, can you give the audience a bit of your background in WebXR?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Hi, everybody, especially you fellow New Yorkers. Very happy to be here at the New York Augmented Reality Meetup. We'll meet in real life soon. My background as a developer and my path into WebXR really was as a natural evolution of the web. I was there for Web 1.0 and Web 2.0, and I saw all of this coming. But when I tried my first Oculus Rift about 5 years ago, I knew that that was the next thing, but that the web wasn't there yet. So it was a couple of years, I had to be patient. But in early 2020, when I got my Oculus Quest and tried my Oculus Quest browser and tried the Hello Web XR experience, which wound up winning Site of the Year last month, I knew that we had crossed a threshold where experiences were of a quality that people could develop for them, distribute them over the web, and really give good experiences that were both media rich as well as completely immersive. And I'm looking forward to seeing what transpires in the coming months and years, especially as it relates to the AR module for WebXR, which is still being worked out, but that is going to provide the technical standard that we need for AR on the web.
Thank you, Ben. Glad you're here. When I currently, when I think of WebXR, I consider websites that include VR and 360 interactive experiences. However, they're typically tied to a 2D screen, and this provides a limited glimpse, in my point of view, at what is possible with mixed reality technology. So, given my current understanding of WebXR, what is the state of consumer awareness within the platform, and how will the technology advance to inform adoption trends in the future?
Well, before I answer that, just to prove that I'm in New York, a chainsaw just started out my window. So let me like close the window and hope for the best here. The consumer adoption is really the key. What was the big game changer was the Oculus Quest 1 sold a lot of units, and the Quest 2 that came out last fall, we don't even really know what the numbers are. We have some idea based on the sales that went through the Oculus store. But the Oculus browser is really the game changer in terms of being able to experience this immersive. And what makes WebXR special is that not only does it work on desktop, tablet, and mobile, but it works on the web. Now, the spec itself is just something that allows developers to write immersive experiences in JavaScript. And right now it's supported in the core of the Chromium browser, which runs on Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Opera, Brave, and a couple of other flavors of browsers that use it, including the Oculus browser. And just last month, the news that everybody was waiting for is that WebXR is officially in development by Apple, and that, along with WebAssembly and WebGPU, is really game-changing, because this means that the stack that makes immersive web development possible, and there are 12 million JavaScript developers in the world, larger than any other sector of developer. So what is happening right now is all these millions of developers are working on projects, and they have their head down, and they're probably not thinking about it. Many of them don't own Quests or even know that this is possible. Word's getting around, and it's changing very quickly. So when it comes to adoption by the consumer that is accessible, the consumer adoption is going to drive industry adoption. And I think we're just about at the tipping point where, especially when advertising agencies start deploying the budgets of their Fortune 500 companies to create these experiences, first to test it out. But I think that especially by the time Apple's devices hit the market, that is going to be normalized. So I think that it's very important that right now is a good time for people to be getting in to develop for that spec.
Thanks, Ben. Based on what you're mentioning regarding advertising, what role do you see advertising playing in the future of AR? And being the inevitable privacy concerns of biometric, gaze tracking, and spatial analysis all readily available, do you think that the mixed reality technology will aid for a better experience and relationship between advertiser and consumer, or will it be outweighed by privacy concerns and misuse?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in that question, a lot more than we have time for, but I think that the top line stuff. So first of all, when it comes to marketing and the aspect of that, I think that it's very important when we start putting on augmented reality glasses and using augmented reality devices and have location-based information shown to us. It's what I call annotated reality. And there was this video that came out sometime last year or so where it was like if somebody was standing in the middle of a city and it was just constant bombardment of information. And I think that it's very important that on one level, when information's coming into us, that we have control over filtering it on the way in. And when there's a lot of information that's being collected by the sensors on a device that should never leave the device. And so I think one of the, like in terms of referring everybody to some place that's interesting, if you're interested in the privacy conversation, XRSI, the XR Safety Initiative, headed by Kavya Perlman with a lot of industry partners, has put together a framework which is somewhat like modeled after NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, in terms of defining for industry what the best practices of this are. And right now we're living in a surveillance capitalism business model that is completely broken and no one likes it. And you have situations like where Apple is disabling certain tracking features on the phone and Facebook is objecting to it because that's how they make their money, by selling it to third-party partners. So it's very important that we know what happens to the data that we have. And our devices shouldn't be letting out data that we're not explicitly giving consent to. So that's, you know, just the outline. It's a pretty deep rabbit hole to go down that conversation, but I think that consent and choice is really what it comes down to, both on the input and the output.
Definitely. Thanks for that detailed answer, especially on the difficult question of privacy. As we're talking, I see a lot of conversation going on about NFT, and I didn't necessarily prepare a question for this, but I know that the Poly Awards, the trophy that you gave out was actually a digital token. I'm not sure if it was connected through blockchain, but I know that you didn't give a physical trophy. You gave a 3D model of some sort.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little more to?
Yeah, so first of all, the trophy itself defies physics, so it can't even be 3D printed. It levitates. It's a base with sort of a diamond-shaped dodecahedron shape with a WebXR crown, and it's shiny and gold, and it wouldn't work in real life. But also, it's a virtual trophy for a virtual award. But to make that authentic, it was key to do that. Now, it was interesting because I started talking about doing this in January. There's an artist named Alina, forgive not memorizing her long Russian last name, but she's brilliant. You may have seen her video of her doing what she calls volumism with the Queen's Gambit. And she mentioned that she had done, or that she was minting NFTs. Now, I've known about Ethereum EC721 tokens. There's a new one, the EC1155, that allows you to essentially watermark a digital asset. And there are various services that you can upload a asset to, and then you can then sign for it with an Ethereum wallet. So you just confirm that you own it in MetaMask, or you can transfer it and bring it back down. And it has this blockchain metadata with it. And that's really the certificate of authenticity. So if you needed to prove anything or prove ownership, that metadata that you have needs to match up to the watermark in that. And that's pretty much how NFTs work. What we're seeing right now is a tremendous amount of hype, and I'm just kind of waiting for the hype to blow over, because I really believe that the utility of NFT is here to stay, the non-fungible token. But I think that the idea of selling a digital asset for $69 million on Christie is not only sort of a pump and dump type of scam. It's like absurd to me that just overnight happened, and then they're just trying to get everybody on the bandwagon. But the tech isn't going to go away. And I think that if you're interested in this, I would suggest to everybody that you experiment around it. Take a digital asset of your own, make an NFT out of it, learn the process, and really kind of understand why it's so important.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, Ben, and I'm definitely going to try it out myself. So now that you actually held the Poly Awards, which was on February 20th last month, which was a beautifully curated event, and as you mentioned, you won Site of the Year. It's an amazing site, which you could check out for yourself if you go to.
Oh, I didn't win Site of the Year. That was Hello WebXR, Mozilla.
Oh,
Diego Goberna and Fernando Serrano won that.
okay, my
I'm just
mistake.
the guy who decided that there needed to be a WebXR award.
Yes.
These guys really are pioneers, and I felt that they needed to be recognized, and that's why I put it together.
Definitely. The Mozilla experience was incredible, and I actually discovered that along with many others through the Poly Awards. So, with the curation of such a successful event, could you go over a bit on how you view the current XR community today, and what are some of the benefits of being involved in augmented reality industry now versus in 5 years from now?
Well, I mean, timing is everything. I've watched over the arc of time. I've seen technology coming. I've seen things that had already sort of gotten on. Like I felt like I was late to the table. I really should have been a Bitcoin billionaire, but it's, if only I had bought them at 9 cents in 2009. It's that type of thing. But the important thing when it comes to XR is content. And with all of the different digital transformation technologies, AI, high-speed connectivity, digital ledger technology, which is blockchain, quantum computing is coming. This is all part of an ecosystem. But for content people, once these devices are on the market, that's what's going to be really game changing, because the marketplace is going to be there. And so there's already been a gold rush going on for a couple of years. There's been a hype cycle. VR started in the 90s, as we know, and it kind of didn't go anywhere. And then when the Oculus Rift Kickstarter became so successful and Facebook bought Oculus, and there was a huge amount of hype around the VR ecosystem in 2016 and 2017 that didn't really amount to much. Now it has matured. The Quest, being the inexpensive device that has penetrated the consumer market, is a big deal. The fact that you have a lot of standalone devices not needing to be tethered to a device and not needing to buy an expensive video card, which, by the way, the price of video cards is driven up by blockchain. Proof of work mining is why video cards are so expensive. This is the sort of defining market factor with that. So the more adoption you have, the more investment there's going to be in this. And content, particularly once the advertising and marketing dollars of these companies are unleashed on it, this is a new medium. This is the new medium of the 21st century. And so that's why I started an awards ceremony, because you have awards for movies and Broadway and TV and music, but this is a completely different thing that uses all of that, but it's completely immersive. So we're going to be seeing a completely different type of content. And it's like, you can't be told what the Matrix is. People who have been exposed to it get it. They understand immersive. People who have been exposed to both VR and AR understand the difference, where VR being immersive in the sense that you're inside of it, AR being immersive in the sense that it's around you and you can move around it with SLAM. Those are the very important distinctions to make, that it's not just 3D. This isn't your grandparents' 3D, where it's just stereoscopic red-blue imaging. This is 6 degrees of freedom. And that is what makes all the difference.
Thank you, Ben. And with that, we're out of time, but it was really great having you on. Fantastic answers. Thank you for being part of it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move on to Andrew Shih he has 20 years experience in both marketing and sales, and he's from Compound Photonics. He's a business development director over there. Compound Photonics is a leading provider of optical engines, micro LEDs, and LCOS displays. And Andrew is specifically working on developing strategic infrastructures to accelerate the adoption of micro display technology for AR and VR head-mounted displays. So Andrew, feel free to share your screen. We're excited and looking forward to your presentation.
Sure thing. Andy, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Looking
Okay.
good.
Great. Well, thank you, Andy, for that great introduction. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of approach this from a slightly different angle, right? Ben talked a lot about content, right? And content, isn't really useful unless there's a way to display it. And for, I guess, enabling the next generation of AR to truly make AR, MR, glasses, headsets, consumer-friendly devices that are going to be sold in large quantities. Display is sort of we think it's the critical component of making these devices a consumer reality. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, what the key requirements are, and how those requirements flow down into the display, what CP is doing to enable the displays that are capable of being put in these next generation of devices. And you've probably heard a lot about display technologies such as liquid crystal silicon, which we have been working on for many years, and a lot of buzz around micro LEDs, which we are also working on micro LED based displays. But a lot of it stems from sort of the technology platform, what we call the backplane, which is the electronic drive technology that we fabricate on a traditional silicon CMOS integrated circuit type of process that incorporates high performance logic to drive these displays and to do them at the performance levels that you need and at the power requirements that you need to successfully integrate these into portable AR HMD devices. Okay, so let me start just a kind of a quick overview of Compound Photonics. So as I said, we are an advanced microdisplay provider. We develop microdisplay subsystems for augmented and mixed reality headsets, smart glasses. Most of these are near eye applications, right? And so, we've been focusing on micro displays. The company itself started in 2007, developing liquid crystal on silicon display technology and sort of advanced electronic drive architecture and a complete video pipeline for driving these displays. Originally, the company was founded actually to focus on pico projectors. But about 5 years ago, we basically reoriented the company towards the emerging AR space. We have an extensive IP portfolio covering all manner of micro display technology, as well as video drive, backplanes, and so forth. Right? We currently have a micro display product portfolio that includes a 0.26-inch 1080p display and a 1:1 aspect ratio 2K by 2K 0.34-inch liquid crystal on silicon display. We've prototyped a 4K by 2K display, and we're currently working quite actively in prototyping and developing micro LED displays using our backplane technology. I think everybody here is familiar with the difference between AR and MR, but I think the key thing is, right, none of this is useful unless you can efficiently take your computer generated information and superimpose it on the real world, right? And to do it requires combining display, optics, waveguides or combiners. Various different ways of getting an image that's produced by the display and actually projecting it or overlapping it with the real world onto a pair of glasses or onto glass lenses. Right? We provide the display module itself. right? So this is an example of our liquid crystal on silicon display. This is actually our 2K by 2K, so it's a 2048 pixel by 2048 pixel display, showing at actual size compared to a dime, right? 0.34 inches diagonal. It's about a 3 micron pixel pitch, right? So to give you a sense of scale, that's about 1 to 2 orders of magnitude smaller than, say, the display that would be on a mobile phone, right? So those displays are like in the 40, 50, 60 micron range. The displays that are on your TVs, large screen TVs, those are, or your desktop monitors, those are, 100 micron plus 200 micron size pixels, right? So quite a bit smaller. And the reason they have to be small is because, right, they have to fit on a pair of glasses. Our displays are noted for having, the optical characteristics that are needed for AR. So because these are illuminated displays, they need to have very high reflectance. They need to be able to have good contrast to be able to show different kinds of content. And they need to operate at pretty fast response times in order to support the things that are required for AR, like head motion tracking, or like the fact that, what you're looking at and the content that's superimposed has to update often at millisecond or faster rates of updating because of head motion or head tracking. Right? And then because size is critical, pixel size is important, right? When we talk about, sort of what exists in the market today, right? You have smart glasses, or, very close to sort of consumer-friendly form factor. They have very compact optics. They're user-friendly form factors, relatively speaking, comfortable to wear. But unfortunately, the displays that are used for those smart glasses today are pretty limited, right? They could be limited in resolution. They could be limited in brightness and contrast. The use cases are limited because the information content that can be displayed is limited, right? On the other hand, you have devices like Microsoft HoloLens, the HoloLens 2, the HoloLens 1 before it, the Magic Leap 1 device. These are more sort of fully featured AR, MR headsets, right? From a system standpoint, right? They seamlessly integrate with the application processor. They can provide some pretty high level of performance in terms of the imagery that's generated, in terms of the integration with SLAM sensors. They're relatively bright, so the image quality is pretty good. But they suffer from the fact that the optics tend to be pretty complicated, and the form factor itself is pretty cumbersome, right? And so today they're kind of limited to industrial or B2B type use cases, and not really suitable for the consumer, the mass market consumer type of application, right? And so when you look at sort of what the requirements are and how those requirements are going to flow down to the display, right? Ultimately, what does a consumer care about, right? So for Apple to actually come out with a pair of glasses, or Microsoft or Samsung, or any of the big five, right? These are the things that they're going to care about, right? Well, it's got to be, for lack of a better term, fashion friendly, right? Sleek, lightweight, ergonomic, looks good on your head, right? Something that you want to be seen with, not something that you don't want to be seen with. Battery life, or so it has to operate at pretty low power. It has to have reasonable battery life. So the display, all the electronics have to have low power consumption, right? Ideally, you want it to be able to operate independently, so not tethered to a cell phone or not tethered to a puck. It's got to be able to operate in sort of a wide variety of ambient lighting conditions, right? So has to have high brightness and contrast in both bright light situations as well as indoors in low brightness situations. And it needs a large field of view, right? And it also needs to have, or we refer to it as iBox, but it needs to be able to accommodate for the physical differences between different people, right? So intrapupil distance, right? The spacing between the pupils is going to vary between people, right? And ideally, you want to be able to make those adjustments or be able to accommodate for that without the user having to make any mechanical adjustments to the device itself, right? What's also important is, right, it's got to be a good visual experience, right? So you can't have latency during motion, right? The display has to update quickly and has to update quickly in response to sensor stimuli so that you don't have problems with like image tearing or image sticking as the user rapidly scans his head from one direction to the other and the scene actually changes, right? And the sensors are trying to catch up, right? So it's kind of a broad set of requirements, but when we look sort of when we then drill down and talk about sort of the display itself, right? Historically, that leads to sort of three issues, right? One, the display as a component itself is not conducive to a consumer-friendly industrial design, right? So historically, they've had lots of components on them, high power overhead, the packaging is complex, it's costly, right? From a video pipeline standpoint, right, you've got to deal with the fact that these are relatively high resolution displays. You're pushing a lot of image content data down the video pipeline, and that consumes both bandwidth and power, right? And then you have sort of, again, the latency issue that you have to deal with, and the fact that different content and different use cases have very different power and bandwidth requirements, right? And so we've looked at kind of how we address these from a next generation display platform standpoint, right? We've also, I think the market recognizes that micro LED is a very attractive technology for a next generation micro display. Has the potential to solve a lot of problems or a lot of perceived issues that exist with existing micro display technologies for AR, right? Right? Everybody feels that micro LEDs have the potential to deliver, right, very good contrast, the wide color gamut. The displays are fast, with almost instantaneous switching speed, right? And they have inherently wide viewing angle, right? And being fully solid state, they're potentially also relatively simple, right? Now, sort of, it's likely to be a sort of a midterm or longer term solution. We think that micro LEDs in AR space are probably 3 years out, if not more. And I think the challenges there are in terms of the efficiency of the micro LED devices themselves to achieve the brightness that you need, changing how the light is emitted from a micro LED display so that it's friendly to projection optics, right? So micro LEDs like to be direct view displays that you look at directly. They don't really like to be projected displays where the light output actually has to be collimated in one direction. And then, integration of color, and how that occurs. But, lots of companies working on lots of different ways to address all these problem sets, and we think that there is a good sort of roadmap that allows for these problems to be solved. Right? Sort of where we come in is we've looked at sort of what the requirements are for the display drive technology that's needed to drive these next generation micro displays, whether they be liquid crystal on silicon or micro LED, right? And we have developed a next generation platform for accelerating consumer AR and MR that we called IntelliPix, right? We think it's the first fully integrated digital backplane and driver, right? It can support pixels as small as 2.5 micron on a single chip solution. And that's going to bring a number of advantages to address those problems I talked about earlier, right? Sort of, there's a bit of a New York connection here too. You may have read last week that we announced an agreement with Global Foundries, right? They're located in upstate New York. They're one of the world's leading semiconductor foundries. So Global Foundries will actually be our manufacturing partner for this backplane using their advanced 22 FDX or 22 nanometer node technology for this backplane, right? A couple of things that we're doing on the backplane, or many things that we're doing on the backplane, are specifically intended to address the key requirements for AR, right? So one of the things that you need is a video pipeline that's low latency, that can be programmable, and that can switch rapidly as the type of content that you're displaying changes, right? To manage sort of bandwidth as well as power utilization, we have developed technology that we call on-demand pixel technology, where the pixels no longer have to be updated every single video frame, right? So if you think about a 2 million pixel display or 4 million pixel display, right? Most displays right now require that all 4 million pixels be updated every single frame. So 4 million pixels times 60 frames per second times, right, 24 bits, right, 8 bits per color. And for AR, it turns out
Andrew,
that,
sorry to
yes.
interrupt you, Andrew. We just have a 2-minute warning.
Okay.
If that's
Yeah.
okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So it turns out that much of that content actually doesn't change from frame to frame, and there's huge power savings to be had if you're able to eliminate that that overhead by only updating the pixels that need to be updated, right? By using an advanced semiconductor manufacturing node, we're able to combine both the backplane, the sort of the pixel control functionality, as well as the video driver, the display driver functionality onto the same silicon, and that creates huge advantages in terms of creating very compact display modules, right? So I'll just kind of jump through, right? One of the advantages of this real-time video pipeline is that we're able to, right, essentially tune the operation of the display to the specific content that's being displayed. So in a situation where there's lots of fast-moving video, we can operate in a high-performance mode. In a situation where you're maybe only doing text or iconography, we can operate at a low frame rate, smaller color depth, which uses much less power, right? With the on-demand pixels, right, we can actually drive different parts of the display at different levels of performance, and we can even ignore the parts of the display that are not being refreshed or not being updated on a frame-by-frame basis, and that yields huge benefits in terms of the bandwidth required to communicate with the display, between the processor and the display, as well as in terms of the power utilized, right? And so all of these combine to then, with our one-chip technology, right, we're able to combine multiple chips and the display onto the single piece of silicon to be able to then build a display module that's much more compact and much friendlier from an industrial design standpoint to fit into these next generation AR glasses, right? So sort of in combination, right, all in all, what our technology is going to enable is, right, essentially, right, to open the door to actually being able to build these consumer-friendly AR devices, right, with the high performance displays that people want, right, with the power consumption and in the form factor that, you know, consumers will want for to right, essentially enable the possibility of having these devices, right, being available in volume. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to introduce our technology to you, and I'm open for questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Fascinating technology, and always nice hearing what it's like to develop the hardware, especially when we're always discussing use cases for consumers. And with that, I will pass it to Barry Seff, who's going to present to you one or two questions, if time permits, that folks have been asking during your presentation.
Sure.
Awesome. And thanks again for joining.
Sure thing. Okay.
So, Barry, take it away.
There we go. Cool. Thanks so much, Andrew,
Sure.
for that awesome presentation. Okay, so we have one question that I think is a burning desire for certain people here, but they want to look into the future. What are your thoughts on Mojo's contact lens display? I know that they put out they had a IEEE talk, I think last week. So what do you think about that? You know, are you making such small displays for contact lenses? Or what do you think about their technology?
You know, I mean, their technology is interesting. You know, I would say it's very specialized to address a pretty specific use case right now, right? You know, and if you've listened to their CEO talk, right? You know, he's talked about the fact that, right, one of the things that's driven him is sort of this idea of, right, augmenting vision, because he himself, right, has to deal with that, right? You know, I think their big challenges are really in sort of how that display is going to interface with the rest of the system, right? They have to be able to get signals on and off that display to the display from the display in a wireless fashion. And you know, they're still ultimately going to be limited by resolution. So, you know, I think as a general purpose AR, you know, it's hard to conceive that it would be general purpose AR, but it would certainly be very effective for the use case that they're positing. And you know, and they've got some pretty big system integration challenges, you know, but they've got really sharp people, and I think they're making good progress.
Thanks, guys. I think we're out of time here, but thank you, Andrew. It was an excellent presentation.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Ben's clapping there in the back.
Right.
So kudos. Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Next up, we have Alan Smithson, the virtual and augmented reality expert and influencer. He's one of the leading voices in AR, and he runs the podcast XR for Business and Education. You might have also seen his TEDx talk with the presentation, The Marriage of Technology and Education. Alan is also a mixed reality advisor to some of the world's largest companies. And most recently, he's the founder of MetaVRse, a web-based 3D content and creation platform that enables businesses and consumers to leverage the power of spatial computing. Alan, it's great to have you. And Alan just suggested that I'll play this video before he hops on. So I'll go ahead and do that now. There. Okay, that was awesome. And without further ado, Alan Smithson, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. And thank you everybody for joining us tonight. And Ben and Andrew, so exciting. Ben and I have been working together on a bunch of initiatives over the last couple of years. So it's very awesome to be on a kind of stage together, even though we're virtual, but super cool to see everybody. Again, my name's Alan. I'm a co-founder at MetaVRse, and I'm just going to go through a quick deck, but I'll do this really quickly. I can send this to anybody, but what I really want to do is show you the meat and potatoes of the engine and show you what's possible. So without further ado on that, I'm going to move this out of my way because it's right in my menu. There we go. And I'm going to present. Move you guys here. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So what is MetaVRse? MetaVRse is, what is XR? First of all, we all know this. I'm going to skip this scrap. This is from our deck, but you guys get this. We really see XR as the combination of not just virtual augmented mixed reality, but also interactive real-time 3D and spatial computing. We kind of tend to overlook that and just kind of go advanced to glasses and AR and VR, but really spatial can be on a 2D device, on a phone, tablet, computer, and really just giving people that 3D gamified experience. You know, we take it for granted that we have games that allow us to go into these virtual worlds and explore, but it's really limited to gaming. The rest of the world has kind of not figured this out. So, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's difficult to make, and there, there's a number of challenges. So we try to address them with what we're doing here. So what is MetaVRse? MetaVRse is a web-based platform that makes it easy to create, curate, and consume these interactive XR experiences all from the web. So really, the idea is that you don't need to push to app stores anymore. We're really focused right now on marketing, training, and e-commerce. And the reason why we're focused on this is because this is where the money is right now. This is where the market is. And this is the fastest path to generating revenue while we invent the future, really, let's be honest. And so what we're able to do through marketing, training, and e-commerce is give our customers the interchangeability. So if you build something in marketing, and I'll show you this, it can actually be used for training. So you don't actually have to rebuild it for that. And what we're seeing is this flexibility and extensibility for our client projects. How is XR creating value now? XR is creating value in a ton of different ways. This is the ones we're focused on, obviously. So training, marketing, and e-commerce, you'll see a number of different stats and numbers here. I'll send this off to you guys so you can read it at your own leisure. There's links to everything. Our product offerings right now, we're really focused on kind of selling this stuff to the end users and really working with our developer partners to be able to take templates and take what we're building for our customers and really offer it to many more customers. So virtual showrooms, galleries, interactive experiences, that sort of thing. We're partnered with a number of different industry partners. You guys know all this stuff, I'll just pass it. The one thing about our platform is that it works everywhere. It works on all devices, and I'll show you that. We'll do something together, and we'll be able to do it right away. You can try it from your phone. We've had experiences down to iPhone 5, but we typically say iPhone 6 and above, no problem. And we just actually pushed yesterday. Ben was talking about the WebXR standard. We just pushed WebXR for Android, so natively we'll be able to support web AR directly from Android from the browser, which is pretty cool. And our system works on all browsers: Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Edge, Opera, whatever you throw at it, it doesn't matter. And it works on all computers and iOS and Android. And with the WebXR standard, we'll be able to go to head-worn VR glasses and goggles and stuff as well. So focused on virtual showrooms, interactive configurators. Some of the benefits of these is that, people just want to have something different, especially for virtual showrooms and retail. People are just bored at, Amazon's awesome if I want to find a bag of nails or something, but if I want to explore and learn about a product, it's really not that, it's not that sexy. It's kind of meh. It leaves lots to the shopping experience. So I'll show you some of the things that we're working on. Virtual showrooms, they increase conversion rates. Product marketing, so you can, again, increase conversion rates, increase revenue. Higher return on ad spend. So when you use 3D, you're actually able to get a higher return on your ad spend using 3D. And all of these examples, by the way, are real examples. These are all images and GIFs taken from our player. Higher engagement, people, because they have the ability to self-learn and self-direct their shopping experiences, you're seeing much higher engagements. Increases in revenue right across the board. The interesting thing is Nike, they set a goal of 35% digital penetration by 2023. That was pre-COVID. Now it's 50%, and they're staying there. They're not going to go down. And Adidas just recently announced they're going to invest $1.2 billion in digital transformation to try to catch up. Maybe too little, too late. Product training. This is the other side of our business. So we have marketing and training. And a lot of times what we're finding is that our training customers don't realize they can use it for marketing. And as soon as the marketing people see the training experience, they go, wow, why aren't we using this? So product training is another big one. This is an ultrasound. We actually did a medical machine, a blood machine, and broke it into its constituent parts from CAD. So we took every nut, bolt, and screw on how to replace the hard drive, how to replace the fan, everything. And so now with this 3D experience delivered over the web, it's password protected, obviously, but delivered over the web, you can now learn how to disassemble the entire product. Without having instructions. So this saved them a weekend-long course, so they don't have to fly people out to the course. It also saved them a 200-page manual that nobody read. So it's saving them overall a lot of support calls. This company has since expanded the program, and they actually created a support piece where you can order all the parts. So we took an exploded view of the machine and put some flags, and now they can order all the parts online as well, directly from the 3D experience. This is a ship's bridge. They wanted to be able to teach people about what's going on in the ship's bridge and bring in data from it. Because it's on the web, we can bring data directly in. So all those screens there, they're not real time in this, but we can make them all real time streaming from wherever source you want. Product training, this is an example, very simple product training, but it gets the point across that, by being able to touch it and interact with it, it viscerally makes you feel like you're doing something instead of just looking at a 2D website and watching a video. And of course, the data we're able to collect is absolutely insane. We're able to collect all the traditional data around total visits, everything you can collect, but we're also able to collect heat maps around where people go inside the 3D space. So this is going to be an interesting, and as soon as we go to kind of head-worn as a general rule where everybody's moving to head-worn, and the projects that we do for head-worn devices, we'll be able to track things like engagement as far as what are they looking at. We'll be able to also tell how long they look at something. Eye tracking, all of these things can be included. So with that, if you want to take your phone out, I'm going to show you some stuff here, but if you want to try any of these experiences, you can point it at this QR code now. It'll take you to our demo page, and the demo page, you can try the experiences real time. I'll leave that up for a few seconds so you can grab that. And then it's also just metaverse.com, metavrse.com/showcase. So if you want to try it on your own, I will do that. So I will stop talking about this and I will start showing more cool stuff. So here's our virtual showroom. Happy to answer any questions as we go here. I can see it in the chat. So if you guys have any questions, happy to answer them. So this is our virtual showroom. The reason why you're not able to walk through it right now, it's not because we thought it was cool to kind of fly through things by clicking them. It's more because we actually don't have physics installed right now. So we don't have bounding boxes and everything. So you'd literally just be walking through everything. We have no way to stop you from walking into a wall. So that'll be pushed very soon. It's just it's on the list with a billion other things. But you have this kind of space where you can start to look around, and it starts to feel like, wow, I'm in a space. I'm not just, I'm not just looking at a product, but I'm actually able to interact with this product. And of course, you can, rotate the products. You can also buy things from the site. You can play videos. So videos can be embedded directly into a plane, let's say, or they could also be embedded into a 3D object. For example, this watch. There's a video embedded directly underneath the glass of the watch. So if you look carefully, the video is actually embedded inside the 3D object. So you can embed video into 3D objects. If I click on the guitar here, we can also do audio. You can probably hear it in the background there. So we can do audio, so MP3, MP4. We can also do custom colors, all of this sort of thing. You know, anything you can do in 3D, you can bring it in. And of course, we're working on a checkout system, so you can buy it directly from the 3D immersive space as well. So you'll be able to purchase directly from here. This is our camera demo, and you can see that we were able to include 3D object animations as well.
Alan, could you speak, this is a question from Zach, could you speak a bit more about the real-time data streaming in?
Sure. What's real-time data? So streaming in. What do you mean by real-time data streaming in?
Are any of the, from what I understand, are any of these videos being pulled in real time?
Oh, so like if I play this video, you mean? Yeah, the videos are streaming. So this video is actually streaming from our server. So it could be streaming from anywhere live, real time, of course. Is that
Very cool.
question?
Question from Dev: is this product 100% WebXR?
Sure. On Android, yes. On Apple, not so much. So right now we have a thing called our One App solution that connects ARKit so that you have the full access of ARKit natively. But we're really pushing hard for that. We just got Android working for WebXR standard like yesterday. So yeah, Apple's next. Apple's always a pain in the butt.
Just another quick question.
Yeah.
And feel free to continue sharing as
Go ahead.
Yeah, as I ask these. So what's the process like for a brand who's looking to advertise? Do they reach out to you and you guys create the experience, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, it really depends on the customers. So we actually have a studio, so we can build it for you, or you can, have your tech team build it. If you have CAD models, so for example, this Mercedes actually came from Mercedes, and we had all the CAD models, so it actually makes our life a lot easier. So you can see like even details down to the wood finish on the steering wheel. And if you notice, if I look down here, you'll notice, see the real-time reflections down here, right here? That's actually reflecting off our skybox. So if you go out a bit and you look on the car, you can see the same building reflecting on the hood of the car. So we have real-time reflections and stuff. So the answer is yes, we can build it for you. You can build it yourself, however you want to do it. It's totally up to the customer.
Well, really looks beautiful, especially.
Yeah, we have a proprietary rendering core that allows us to render, like this car, for example, is about just shy of 1 million polygons. I think it's 900 and something thousand polygons. But we're able to push millions of polygons on a mobile device. It's not the polygons that kill you. It's really actually texture files that end up hurting. So what we're building into the editor, and I'll show you guys the editor in a second, what we're building in is a frame rate analyzer. So you'll be able to see, okay, on an iPhone 6, this is what you can expect. So it's kind of going to give you some menu on, we don't have it installed right now, but the whole idea is like, if I'm pushing this out and I want it to go down to iPhone 7 and above, then you can see what the performance is going to be like. So you can, as you add more things, your performance is going to take a hit. So there's no hard limitation. We've pushed as much as about 6 million polys on an iPhone 6. So there's no hard limit, but things start to kind of slow down after that.
Incredible. And we have about 3 minutes left.
All right.
A few more questions in the chat that I just want to get over to you. So
sure. Well, let me keep going here,
yeah,
and then I'll answer the questions. How's that?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
this is from the launch of the S21 Ultra launch that we did for Samsung. So this was a training experience. They wanted a way to show off their phones in a different way. So we actually built it in. I'll turn off the sound. You don't need the sound, but this whole idea was that they wanted to have a different way to train people. The training is interesting because they have 50% higher test scores with this, and we'll be announcing this as a case study soon, but 50% higher test scores. And they also have 4 times greater engagement, meaning like people went back to this experience 4 times more than they would in a normal experience. So super cool, very exciting. Now, I promised I would show the showroom in its glory, and this is what the showroom looks like. It's not that sexy looking thing. It's a 3D object in a 3D space. This is our editor, and you'll notice that we have some lights in here. I can click on any of the objects and I can move them around. But if I zoom in, I'm inside our virtual showroom here. So let's pick a color. What color are we gonna make the walls? Let's put it in the chat. Pick a color, doesn't matter. Anybody? Pink. All right, we're gonna go pink. Pink. Go. Oh yeah. We'll go magenta for Terry Schussler. There we go. Magenta. I'm gonna actually take down the roughness so you can start to see reflections on the floor. There you go. And again, I can take this same color and I can start to apply it to different parts. Oops. Undo that. Magenta. So now we got our magenta walls. What color should we make these columns? Magenta goes with what? Blue maybe? We'll go with blue. There we go. Perfect. So you can see real time that I'm able to start editing things, and you have here, and I'll just go around the editor. You have the ability to add things into your scene up in the left-hand side. So you can add videos, lights, cameras, HUD buttons, or like a 2D button, configurations. A whole system runs on configurations. So if I want it to be blue, I can make a button to make it all go blue. And we'll just do that. So now I've got my new environment. I'm happy. I want to swap out. Let's say, here, let's do this. Let's go. I wonder if we can't get a picture with all of us. Hold on 1 second. How do I stop screen share for a second? All right, go to view. Smile, everybody. We're going to take a quick picture. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take that picture, drop it in here. 1 sec, share my screen again. All right, so I just dropped I literally like drag and drop that that photo into our editor here. I'm just gonna add it here. Oops. And everything's real time, so I can actually grab that picture that we did and we'll put it there. Just drop it onto the albedo, and there's our picture of all of us there. So you can do the same thing with videos. I can click on the video and replace the video. But yeah, so once you're happy where it is and you like everything, you can hit publish. And it's real time, published out to the web on any device. And if you hold out your phone with your QR code, you can try it now. And I'll drop the link in the chat as well. So that is the MetaVRse engine. I'm sorry we don't have more time to kind of give you a little bit more in depth, but the idea with this is that it's super easy. All of this is built code optional. So we have a full JavaScript editor built in. I'll just show you that quick so you can see it. We have a full JavaScript editor built right in. But if you don't know JavaScript, we have a drag and drop code snippet thing that we do. So it allows you to do that. So yeah, there we go. Can support for game controller input, not yet, but it's coming. In similar control to Maya, very similar. The idea is we kind of took the best of Unity, Play Canvas, Maya, Cinema 4D. We kind of just, even Photoshop, we took some ideas from it. One of the things we put in from Photoshop was this ability to put instructions. So we have this little eye, and when you hover over things, it gives you the instructions on what they do. So we're trying to take the best of everything and put it together in a cohesive way. Yep. Any other questions, comments, concerns? In a case with a lot of high poly render things to render, would you do multiple rooms? Yes. So in something, the medical project that I spoke of earlier, we actually we did multiple scenes because the whole project was 360 megs, or sorry, 300 megs and 360 interactions. And so we just broke it into a bunch of scenes. It was way easier.
Barry, any other questions?
Can't see me there.
There are always questions, but there's little
How much
time. So thank you
gamification?
so much, Alan.
Oh, my pleasure.
We have one more speaker on, so
Great, go for it. I'm stopping
Well,
sharing now. Thanks,
thank you.
guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
That was
Awesome.
awesome, Alan. I'm pulling that up on my phone.
Nice, nice. I'll put the here. I just put the link in the chat. Thanks, guys.
Okay,
Thanks so
was
much
great.
for having me.
Hey, Alan, thanks for joining. Seriously, great to have you on. Beautiful. Patrick, thanks for being involved as well. Good to see you here. And last but not least, we have Kevin Yu here from WearWorks. Kevin is an industrial designer, graduate from Pratt School of Design, where he also teaches and worked on a number of interdisciplinary design projects. Kevin has also worked with the museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where along with Hershey Chocolate, he's developing the future of 3D systems as they relate to historical significance. Kevin is also the founder of WearWorks, which we'll be discussing tonight, a device that uses haptics to enable users to feel responses as they interact with new environments. So Kevin, it's a pleasure to have you here. We'll also have a few minutes after the presentation if you'd like to ask Kevin some questions. So feel free to share your screen. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Andrew. You might play that video first, so we get some of the basic information.
Yes, of course. My bad. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, FYI, I don't work at or I don't teach at Pratt anymore. That was like a long time ago, actually. It's some outdated information that got caught up in there. But
yeah, sorry about that. I pulled it off. I got that information from your website. Yeah. So here's the video you suggested that I play in advance. This is on WearWorks. Thanks again for being here, Kevin.
We built an entirely new way to navigate, one that gets you out of your phone and back into the real world. We are WearWorks. A haptic design company, we build products and experiences that communicate information through touch. Navigation is inherently visual. This means you have to constantly juggle your attention between looking at your phone and seeing what is in front of you. And for the 21 million of us living with a visual impairment, it's even more profound. Navigation takes away the ability to hear what is going on around you, and that is how you keep yourself safe. Introducing Wayband, a wrist-wearable haptic navigation device that delivers turn-by-turn navigation directly to the skin. What this means for you is an intuitive navigation experience that frees your ears and eyes so you can be fully immersed in what's going on around you. At the core of Wayband is our patented haptic corridor. We've built a 360-degree touch-based compass that gives you vibrational feedback based on the direction that you are facing. When you are going the correct way, you feel no feedback. When you turn away from the correct path, you get a slight vibration, and that vibration gets stronger the wronger you are. We've tested with thousands of people, and 90% can figure out the correct way to go within 10 seconds. It's that simple. We began 5 years ago with a question. How can we use touch to deliver information in a more intuitive and less obtrusive way? We began our exploration with navigation. Then in March of 2017, we were approached with the ultimate challenge. Simon Wheatcroft is an athlete who is blind. He dreamed of running solo in the largest marathon in the world. And on November 5th, just 8 months after our initial call, Simon, guided by Wayband, went down in history as the first person who is blind to run the New York City Marathon without sighted assistance. We talked to hundreds of people about their challenges with visual-based navigation. Across the board, it was the same. They wanted to get out of the device and back into their lives. It's easy. Setup is simple. Open the Wayband app and turn on the Wayband device to connect. After that, you input the address, confirm, and put your phone away. Touch is personal. So we built the ability to adjust the feedback level based on your comfort. Researchers and developers use the API to connect Wayband as a peripheral device to explore and create custom haptic experiences, games, and applications. Wayband gives you the confidence and the freedom to explore your world without a screen in your way. Go anywhere with Wayband.
And with that, Kevin, we're happy to have you here. Feel free to share your screen.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here and for making it to the last person. Usually everyone's energy is a little low, but I'll try my best to amp it up.
We still have energy, Kevin.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, the company's called WearWorks, and we develop information that communicate through touch, and we focus on wearable device technology specifically, and that's how we started. So what is haptics? Haptics just pretty much means anything related to the sense of touch. Our skin is the biggest organ in our body, and we're not really utilizing it too much to gain day-to-day information that's actually quite valuable. So that's where we found a lot of interest. And that's why we are a haptic design company, and we produce our own hardware and software to converse that information. And that's kind of what we do. We also want to license our haptic software as well as our hardware. And you know, beyond the scope of navigation, that's the foundation of where we started. But we are talking to so many companies about going way, way beyond that. Why we started this, 5 years ago, because my friend Marcus Engel became blind, and we realized that navigation sometimes isn't safe. Sometimes it's really not sensible when you're biking or driving to be looking at a screen at all times. And for many of people out there, it's not possible. So that's where we started to develop it. And the big moment of the marathon was fantastic. We got a bunch of press on it, and Simon was crazy enough really at the time to test it out with us and build it out to run this crazy, long 26.2 miles of, route. So, this got us on the map, really. People start to notice what we're doing, and a lot of our pilot program users, so we have about 200 people that have the wavebands right now. That's our first initial beta test pilot launch. And we're actually launching an official launch this year, like middle of this year. We pushed it back a tiny bit to around September, but a lot of them are saying that this is working really well for them, just as a basic functionality of navigating on a pathway. So pretty much you can just imagine a haptic compass, right? We have an app and we have a hardware. We won a couple of design awards on the product itself. The app itself is really simple, but we're going through incredible amounts of evolution for it. For example, putting your phone away in your pocket, that calibration process is very difficult. It's going to be the first time ever you can actually get around places without actually having your phone in your hand. So that part, while still having your orientation correct, so that part is a very big challenge for us, but also making basic navigation routes really accurate. So obviously people who are visually impaired, they want accuracy and safety and reliability more than any of us. So this is where we're starting with a very refined navigation pedestrian route. And then for biking and for driving, etc. comes after. But we really want to make the best pedestrian navigation app in the world that really beats everything else. So that's what we're doing with the app. What you saw in the video is made by Discovery Channel, and this is kind of where the virtual stuff really comes through. We are pretty much creating a virtual corridor, and we've actually done this for a VR company way back in the day before Vive or any of the other companies came out. And they wanted us to create an experience in the game where you can get around without having a mini map constantly on the screen. So this was a method that we can also implement in any of the games in the future. So this is kind of how it works. You have these dew points, what we call these dots. And as you walk and you collect a dot, it's like playing Pac-Man. It now guides you to the next dot and so on and so forth. So you're always going towards a pathway, even though it can be a snake-like road or a park or, not like a 90-degree pathway. It can be anything. It can be in a hike, and it will just keep you in that pathway. So that's like the differentiation between our device and, the Apple Watch, where there's like a buzz sequence for left turn, right turn coming up. We also have this, but the main meat of it and the patent that we have is around this. So anything that vibrates and gives you orientation, we own it, and all the isolation of the vibration itself in the hardware to give you the great amplitude change and also isolation of the mass of the vibration to the mass of the product. That's also something that we patented as well. We just want to be, the top of the game for haptics. For hardware stuff, we really realize, obviously not a lot of things are coming out for the VR world. There's like the Tesla suit, which is like way up there. And then you see some little things coming out, like Facebook actually just announced like the bracelet that you just showcased, right? So this is something that's just coming out. We just focus on the haptic experience, information that comes from technology to the people. And that's what we focus on. And right now there's not so much in the market for advanced haptics, assistive technology, and also reliable navigation altogether. This is our starting point. This part is not very necessarily important, but mapping, for example, is all visual, but we want to get a lot of it into the haptic side. And the general price point, this is kind of also a deck as well to skip through a lot of this. We are launching, we are selling, so this is part of like a marketing for us. We focus a lot on the design elements because I'm a designer and I have a lot of great designers on the team. And we made it so that it's really comfortable to wear. It's for every day. And we focus a lot on the element of the chargeability portion, waterproofing it as much as possible, and then to make it so that you can actually run a marathon with it. So our basic team. This part is somewhere where I wanted to kind of focus a little bit on because it's very recent and very exciting. We started working with an autonomous vehicle concept. It's funded by the government. So we're showcasing in 2022 in DC, and we're working with Farsight, which is a great partner of ours. One of the co-founders is also blind there, and WearWorks, which is a company from the UK that maps out the world in 3x3 meters of a square. And anywhere in the world, you can pinpoint exactly where you are or where anything is by saying 3 words. So we have this app implemented into our app right now. And so we're kind of gamifying the entire world mapping system. Instead of saying an address and not knowing exactly where the entrance is of an airport, you just say exactly the 3 words and it gets you to that square. So it's much easier. This combination with the autonomous vehicle concept is that we're going to have a sensor on top of the vehicle and it's going to connect with our device in the future. So in the future, when the autonomous vehicles are rolling around, it's not going to be an Uber where a driver is in the car or a taxi. And when somebody gets there, you call them and say, hey, where are you? And you kind of just talk it out and find each other. The future is going to be autonomous vehicle arrives maybe a few blocks away, maybe in a destined space where it's going to arrive in. And once it's there, you're going to have to get there somehow, especially if you're visually impaired. How do you do that? How do you get to the door when you can't call anyone? You're just finding this object. So that's where there's a sensor on top of the car and it connects with our device and it gives you the exact orientation and the distance away from the car. When you get close enough, the door is open and then you're able to go into the car and use it. So this is the future of kind of what we're working on, kind of in a DL, but I wanted to share with you guys for some questions and conversations. We're competing with Google on this because Waymo is one of the autonomous vehicles that is competing with us for the prize money. And Google actually just reached out to us. They wanted us to work on their wearable technology system. And they just created their own team. They acquired Fitbit for $2.1 billion. And so this is a pretty interesting and important time. I know that Facebook also tried to fight for it, but they ended up not being able to overbid Google. So it's an interesting time for wearable device. It's an interesting time for what the future of wearable device can be and how we can fit into it in the future. But just wanted to mention that as a conversation as well. A bunch of thank yous to some people. And here is where I want to kind of convert over into, and please follow us on Instagram. We're trying to up our game into the marketing and into getting ourselves out there before we launch. This is a device that we created for blind and visually impaired because my friend became blind in college and so on. But when we visited a lot of organizations, they wanted us to do it for everybody, the mass population, to reduce cost and connotation of an assistive technology. We want it to be more of anybody can use it to navigate, which is what I've been doing, also traveling in the world. So it's a very universal product. So I'm trying to say. Beyond this, there is I'm gonna stop sharing. I hope everybody got the link to it. But yeah, I wanted to just mention how I'm tying this to VR. My friend actually, who was supposed to join us last time, was going to work on, he is actually working on a VR system that allows for people to get into indoor spaces virtually, like for universities and for anywhere in the world, organizations and so on. And you can experience the indoor space virtually, also using haptics to get around it. So when you actually get to the real space, you can be more familiar with it and you can get around much faster. And this tied with also gamifying navigation at the same time also making it into a fun activity. I guess it is gamifying it, but yeah, we really want to work with a lot of VR companies in the future. This is the product right here. We're manufacturing this right now, literally, we just pulled the trigger on everything. This is the isolation mold that that I'm talking about right here that we also patented, which creates the hyping haptic sensation. And yeah, the next iteration of this product is going to be with multi actuators. So it's going to have multiple vibrations. We've already prototyped this. It was actually going to be our first product before we started going to manufacturing to reduce costs and to de-risk a lot in the production. We decided to go with a simpler design, but the secondary version will be with a dual actuator, and we will have that communicate a lot more information. The next version will be 3 actuators and so on. So we're kind of building up the amount of senses that we can potentially receive without getting overwhelmed using haptics, because we're not really trained on haptics as we are with music, through hearing and through writing and reading and smells and tastes. Like a lot of these are heavily developed senses that we have for, books and books and books and readings and talents that come out of it. But with touch, there's not much research on it. So we read everything around it. And now we were developing the next future of the evolution using haptics, and the combination with it in the VR world for the future will be humongous. And we are trying to get into the forefront of that as well. So I will stop there. And if anybody has questions, I would love to answer.
Thank you, Kevin. A question from Patrick. Have you done any experiments combining your haptics with spatial audio?
I'm sorry, Andy, can you just say that one more time?
Have you done any experiments combining your haptics with audio, or more specifically spatial audio?
Yeah, so we actually had a long conversation with Microsoft in the past, and they launched an app that did spatial through audio. So we use their product, and we also partnered with some of their team members, and we try to do it. But it's a good combination. So Bose glasses as well. So we also talked a lot with Bose glasses. But you want to be a supplement to information that you get through audio. So for somebody who, for example, somebody who's visually impaired will walk down the street and audio will say, Fort Greene, on your right, or like a street name, whatever, on your left. You can't see it. So really the information for them not tied with sight is kind of useless. So for us to have that information in audio and also haptics is now becoming more of a full system. Now, if you have audio and now you have haptics on a wearable device that gives you orientation, and then audio that gives you information around you, that's street names or whatever, that's good. But at the same time, for people who are visually impaired, audio becomes the first sense of safety they have to really utilize, because for traffic and for people walking around, especially in New York, it becomes really dangerous. So for the first request was, I don't want to listen to anything that sacrifices my safety. I want to be able to be ears free and converse the information through something else, which happened to be touch for us. But yeah, we definitely do want to pair it up when navigating.
Thanks, Kevin. A question from Matt Davis. Any exploration on wearing a band on both wrists, beneficial or detrimental?
We get this question all the time, and I definitely thought about it and designed for it and everything. But in the end of the day, what it came down to was, if you can do it in one, do it in one. If you make 2, now you're just wasting a ton of materials. Now you're wasting a ton of money, and you're buying 2, you're charging 2. Like everything about it just becomes a little bit lame. So I thought, if we can do it in one, we can do it in one. So that's why the orientation using the amplitude change is very important, and that's the reason why we patented this internationally and everything, because we first figured out like, we might have something new here. We might have like a green grass patch, which, technology doesn't really exist that much anymore. We're like, okay, let's just get this. So anything that vibrates and gives you orientation using vibrations, that's what we own and that's what we work with. So, and you just do it with one vibration motor and just with one device, as long as it's, as long as you can feel the amplitude change pretty well, which we've developed the isolation mold for. And that's the core right now. Yeah.
Beautiful. And just 2 more questions, and we'll come to a close here because we're almost 10 minutes over time. Zach Phillips is interested in how tech like the Wayband can help make autonomous cars safer for the general public. Can you speak to your experience in that, if any?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
How could your tech make autonomous cars even safer?
Yeah, so it's not really necessarily about safety. I mean, we don't have control over safety per se of autonomous vehicles. That's really up to the companies that are really, producing them and the cameras and everything. What we can do is make it so that it's easier to access. So, and make it accessible by everybody. And that's what we're really focusing on doing. It's, obviously when you're in the car. So one of our investors is BMW, and we got investment from them very early on because they wanted to make a smarter city. And by having everybody be able to navigate very intuitively, that's making a city smarter. When we started looking at it from autonomous vehicles, because I went to BMW, I pitched this to the CEO of BMW at the time. And, we talked about this haptics in cars for a long time. We even got poached by Jaguar and Land Rover back in the day. And we had to decide between the two on which money to take. But Jaguar wanted us to do specifically haptics inside of cars, which now is being produced 5 years later, right? So haptics in the seats, haptics in the car in general, like, when you're backing up, why is it beeping to tell you how far you are from the car behind you and bothering everyone? Why can't it just be a vibration, right? Why can't it just be haptics? So it's emerging and it's coming up, and we do have interest in implementing haptics inside of cars for the better experience. But right now we are, we're really focusing on this product that we're producing, and beyond navigation. Obviously, there is still many opportunities with VR world and with how people kind of interact with the space, virtual space. But mainly when a car, an autonomous vehicle car, arrives 2 blocks away, and you need to get there, you don't have to now look at your phone anymore. The device now tells you exactly where it is and how far it is. And when you get near it, everything else just happens, right? The door unlocks, it understands who you are, and then you just kind of go. So we just want to make that better, that interaction for the future of humans using autonomous vehicles, just fluid.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kevin. And just a final question from Deb. Are you Series A, B, privately funded? If this is public info, if you don't mind sharing, it seemed like a few folks are interested.
Yeah, we're actually raising right now. We still have a round open. We're on seed round. We're going to go to Series A immediately after we close this. We're still early stage because we don't have revenue yet. We literally are launching this year, and the production of 5,000 units is going to be finished by July, and we'll be shipping in August. So that's our general plan right now, and we have closed 520 out of a million, which we want to raise. So we have still about half to go, and we have about 300,000 in the soft realms right now. So we're planning to close this round by relatively soon. And we are not privately we haven't IPO'd obviously, but we want to get people who are investors that can really implement change and implement great pathways for us. We want opportunities within real estate. We want people that own buildings and hotels to have this in their space. So we were going to work with the Paralympics and the Olympic champions in 2020 Olympics in Japan. So I had all these Japanese investors, and everything was going well, and the pandemic hit and everything went to crap. But I'm actually in Mexico right now. I'm going to be going to Mexico City to visit a Paralympic blind runner who's a gold medalist. And I'll be working with her, and Cisco actually operates 5 running groups every year. And they just purchased a bundle of our product, about 20. And they're going to give it to a lot of the runners and the Paralympic runner as well. And I just give a talk there, So this is how we're approaching it. We have pre-orders. We're selling to B2B. A lot of blind organizations in the world. We visited all of them. We have partnerships with most of them. And now we're getting into more like kind of tech companies, running groups. That's how we're going to go forward. So if anybody has, in the real estate, of course, if you own a hotel, that hotel now can become the first accessible hotel like in the world. And so we want to get to that point where people are, buying our products and they go to the hotel because they know that they can get around really easily. We partner with these beacons. I'll show you right here. So this is the Bluetooth beacons that our friends generated, and we're partnered with for the autonomous vehicle stuff. And you just place this in the entranceways of the hotels and of whatever buildings, and now you can just go right to the door. And you use 3 words to get to the exact pinpoints of airports. So we're going to cover indoor navigation and exterior navigation, all with using the device on the app. So that's the goal.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, and we're open to talking with any investors who are interested and people that have connections within New York, of course, but in the world of real estate and travel.
Yeah, put your contact info in the chat, and definitely if some folks want to reach out to you, they could do it through that information you provide. So hopefully you'll hear from some folks and maybe gain some investment or some new consumers. And also, if we could be part of the pilot program, would love to join. Looks like we're a bit over time. Ben, you're still here. Thanks for hanging on. If anyone,
thanks so much. Seriously, this was really awesome. And any conversations, please just contact me. I'm not shy. You know, I'm down to talk. And yeah.
It was great to have you. Awesome.
Cool.
Beautiful. Ben and Andrew, yeah.
Great, thanks for inviting me. Enjoyed it very much.
Thanks, Andrew, for joining.
Sure thing.
Nice to meet you, Kevin and Andrew, and good to see you, Alan, of course. Alan. And
You disappeared into the metaverse. Yeah. Open up the chat here.
I just put my email here for people just in case they wanted to email me instead of LinkedIn.
Sure. You can now unmute yourself if you'd like to say anything. Say what up. Share a product. Feel free. You have two experts on the line. Ben, Andrew, feel free if you guys have time and you want to hang out. That'd be cool.
Sure, I've got a few minutes.
Yeah, and just hop off during your.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thanks so much. Actually, Ben, hey Barry. Well, we had a question that was for Ben. Could I ask it to you, Ben?
yeah, by all means.
Okay, this was from Alec. Let me pull it up. Great panel tonight. Let's see. Hold on one sec.
It was great to learn more about photonics, Andrew. Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
I've always loved the science behind it. It's way, way, way over just about everybody's head, but it's, you know, as they say, good technology sort of becomes transparent to the end user.
Right. There's a lot of layers to it. And
they also say that science is indistinguishable from magic. And
exactly.
Really what makes the magic happen is the photonics gives us these experiences, and we take it for granted. We will take it for granted, but the same thing goes for software. It just makes the magic happen, but it really makes so much possible for so many people.
Right.
Kevin, your haptics, you know, it's really materially helping people. So fantastic work.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciated both of your presentation as well. It's very, very. I wish my engineers were here to hear this, because I think they would be the ones asking a lot of questions about how to implement it in the future.
Well, one thing that will certainly be interesting is the haptic angle for WebXR. And so, you know, just have them look up the W3C device API specification, and what it has is modules for it. So augmented reality is a module of the WebXR as we know it, as the API is a core. So that is the central spec that makes the hardware, or allows you to program in JavaScript, makes the software talk to the hardware. All of the other modules, which includes input, as well as AR, and there are several others, haptics would be one of those input modules that, so, you know, you can get information from the API that you can use as triggers the same way that you would a button on a hand controller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just thinking about some of the demonstration of the devices that we've actually started producing for the autonomous car thing, but also with different use cases with athletes. So we're starting to input sensors into the device for a new concept for baseball players, a lot of elite baseball players. They want to start using our device to start tracking, but also tell them exactly when they're doing a wrong thing. So the vibration can turn on and begin to gently guide them into a direction. So this is something that's very exciting for us. And I'm just trying to think, like, you know, so we're actually submitting a grant with my friend that I was mentioning. He's visually impaired and he works at Lighthouse Guild, you know, young guy, and he is the one that actually came up with the concept of indoor navigation using VR, but also having people understand visual impairments through the VR system. And then to be able to, you know, have people put it on and say, okay, so you have this kind of, you know, visual impairment with such a large spectrum. But I think beyond that was also to start working on a more affordable, a more practical haptic solution for the virtual world space. So yeah, I'm just, you know, anything related to that, I'm very interested in continuously talking about it. Like we want to get into the space. I know that it's just emerging and still getting really popularized. We have a new VR system right now with the PS5, and you know, it's cool, it's nice. So I think as people start buying more of it, they're gonna, you know, want to implement new stuff. So yeah.
The real value in WebXR is that it runs on, it reaches people where they are. You know, it allows people to load experiences on desktop, mobile, and immersive experiences on headsets and so forth. But there are things that apps will always do better. There are things that there will always be a need. You know, high-end video games, for example, will always, you know, leverage what the most powerful video card can do. But when it comes to circumventing the app stores, that's really what, like, the walled gardens of the 30% commission app stores. If you have an app that really needs to leverage the hardware of a device and needs to use a native thing like ARKit or ARCore, then by all means, you know, it's like build an app. But if you want to distribute to the masses on software that they have, that's where WebXR really brings the immersive experiences that we previously could only do in VR to a mass market. So that, like, right now I'm working on a site that is written in A-Frame, which is a framework used for WebXR, and I program it on the desktop, and then I pull out my Quest and I actually go inside of the website, and that's just an amazing. It amazes me every time I do it, and it just gets better.
That's cool. Very exciting times. Exciting times. Yeah, if anybody doesn't have any questions for me, I think I'm gonna hop off real quick. I haven't eaten anything in a while, so very hungry.
Well, thank you very much, Andy. This has been great. I enjoyed the presentation. Nice to meet you, Kevin and Andrew. And
Yep, nice meeting you.
good night from New York, everybody.
Yep.
Thanks,
In real life.
All right.
Yeah, it was an honor to have you all on.
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for joining, Patrick. Thank you, Max, Max Kitchell, for being part of it. You're the man. Thank you, Mark, for being part of it till the end. Barry, everyone. So,
Okay.
real pleasure. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Good night from Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Say weird.
Later.